Welcome back to another episode of Hermitcraft. I definitely did not plan on recording right now, but something has caught my attention. Can we fly into this station like this? We can, that is amazing. I'd like to ride the rail. I don't have a minecart, there's one already here, that's amazing. And if I were to use this station correctly, the minecart would start in this position. Do you remember a few episodes back when we were working on that project? I tried to use this station and I was a total derp who didn't know what he was doing. The minecarts will stop on the slope like that. And if I click here, it should, in theory, take me all the way around. And now we are riding the rail. Amazing. This is the rail project that we built. It is the red line and it leads over into what was once known as the futuristic district. It might not be known now as the Sahara district. It goes out to the architects and then over to my base, right? But here's the thing, when we get to the top here, it takes a sharp right underneath the rainbow, and yeah, what's going on here? It just kind of ends. Although, there is a trench. I see a rail down there. I was just kind of curious flying over towards this area a moment ago. What is actually going on over here? Someone has dug out a trench. There is a single rail as opposed to two, which is what you'd expect to see on a HRN line. Then it just ends down here. Is this close to the rail line on the other side? I like the floor idea, that's cool, being able to see people go through. That looks like the rail. It kind of looks like it's been rebuilt. Do you know what? I don't know what's going on here. I'm getting totally distracted. I'm actually supposed to be heading over to the pirate area. And look at this! I can't fly! And apparently Ren can't fly either. Kinetic energy. Anyway, the place that I was looking for originally is just over here. Banners. We're going to do something with banners in this episode today. Banners and the nether. I'll tell you exactly what it's all about in a moment. As well as that, we're going to do some Concord studio work, but creating the games that are going to be part of a game show that I have planned for inside the studio. So this banner right here, we should totally be using this in the nether to signify what nether portal takes you to where. So let me quickly just grab some materials here and clone this a couple of times. Now I remember why I started to fly in this direction. I probably need wool to clone the banner. And my personal supply is out. I'm going to have to rob myself. I'm going to have to take black wool from the shop here. Yay! Luckily for me, we are still in stock. Right, let's grab a whole bunch of this stuff for personal use. So let's get back on track here. For a couple of these portals, I threw down some banners. That was only going to be a temporary solution, but no one has come in here and attempted to make any of the portals look that much different. So we're going to signify this one in the pirate area as the pirate area using the banners. And I think what we'll do for this episode is actually try and cover all of the different areas, give them their own unique banners, because banners are amazing. They really are. And this nether hub will really start to pop then. If we go over in this direction though, Green of course tried to do something over here. I really like what he came up with, but with it being just one portal on its own, it didn't kind of really fit in with everything else. So I think he decided to revert his because he didn't like it. There's obviously a couple of blocks here I need to tidy up, put in some glass. I think we are missing some wall up the top, some carpet even, yep, so things can spawn up here, we can take care of that real quick. But we got to make a banner for Grian, and I've been doing a little bit of research, and I think I've actually come up with something that will look really cool. You know what, I'm not going to go all the way back to the shopping area just to get some more white wool. Although if I want to clone this a bunch of times, I will do. Just going to dye it into white wool for now. Okay, that means we can make a base. Excellent, we got a white banner base, that's wonderful. Here is the design that I've got. It doesn't really reveal itself until you get all the way to the end. So we actually start off with this right here, the blue pally, and then we put blue all the way across, like so. And then the next thing to do is to add a strip down the middle. You might see a shape here starting to form that is kind of similar. Then we have to do this, which creates the little bobs at the top. They're not called bobs, they're called Chief Indented. I call them bobs. And then we got to put 1, 2, 3 like this. Aha, now you can see where it's going, but we can also add a fade as well. Do I want to do that first? Let's actually take a look at this thing when it's on the ground, so it's bigger. Right? I mean, if you know Grian's base, I think that's a pretty good representation of it with this. The white of the concrete, the blue of the ocean in the background. And then what often makes a banner look a little bit better is just some fade going on. So that's what we're going to add last of all. The last layer will be this, and although it makes the top of the tower blue, it kind of lets the distance, the height of it, blend into the blue of the ocean. If he wants to change that and get rid of that last one that I've added there, I'd be absolutely fine with that. But that is the design for a banner for Green Space, and I think it's pretty awesome. And we will make more of these. But first of all, I actually got to clone more of them, haven't I? And I'm going to dye some black wool into white. There it is. Excellent. So, later on in this episode, we will try and make banners for all of the districts. That's not what we're going to do right now. We're going to tidy this up so no one falls down onto the carpet. So, we shall return to the dark and dingy Nether later on in this episode. Right now, though, we'd just like to take a moment and say thank you for commenting on the last episode. I had to step outside of my comfort zone here, and it was really nice to see that all of you enjoyed this project as much as I did. I thought it turned out fantastic, considering I don't really do stuff like this, and it seems like a lot of y'all did as well. So thank you for that. And now let's turn our attention to the stage. We are not going to be building anything inside of here today, but what we eventually need to come up with is the aesthetics of a stage for like a TV game show, right? A place for the audience, a place for the contestants and the host to hang out and do their thing, and then we need some games for the contestants to participate in. And that is what we'll be focusing on with our time now, coming up with those mini games for our contestants to play, and I'd like to bounce those ideas off of you before we actually do them on the Hermitcraft server. So we're here in a creative test world to figure things out first of all. So recently I found myself inspired by TV game shows and the sort that have a physical challenge where contestants could be pitted against one another to do a certain task perhaps within a time frame. And what I like about these are the physicality of them, and I've been wondering, how does that physicality translate into Minecraft? We have all of these blocks, game mechanics and functions available to us. Maybe we can make some simple challenges that will allow players to make decisions and get different results, and therefore be able to face off against one another. So this idea is simply a maze, and we're going to have an armor stand that the players would have to navigate around the maze. What they can use to move the armor stand is a bucket of water, and immediately you'll see that the armor stand doesn't actually go in the shortest journey. So this will require the player to decide, oh, do I actually want to start pushing it all the way down into this corner and then across to there, or do I want to try and push it back? And things always don't go quite as you might expect, and there's a lot of placing and then removing of water to do, and from that should emerge some difference between the players that are participating. And that is of course how we create a competition. And you know what, this right here was just supposed to be an example, like a way to lead in and then create some other challenges, but I think this is good enough, so we'll consider this one of the 3 that I want to get figured out in this episode. I think this next idea I have here is good, but perhaps this demonstration hasn't been executed too well. But essentially what we could start off with is a Pez dispenser of minecart chests, and in each of them they have a different colour of wool, and you've got to get that colour of wool to the correct destination. Now there will be tracks that need switching in the middle on the way to there, and this translates pretty simply, you know. I think if I were to send that off, it would actually go all the way over there. Of course I'd have to add powered rails, but you can see it's made its way over to this destination here. Now it's landed on a hopper, and obviously it's sucked out the contents, but what we could essentially do is something like this. We could have a filter in place and then just use a comparator to detect when an extra item goes in there. So this demonstration has flaws that I don't think really shows the full potential of this challenge. Having the glass floor and being able to see the redstone underneath I don't think is a good idea. I think the levers that you have access to shouldn't really correlate to what's directly in front of you. Like this lever shouldn't change the rails that are right in front of it, and perhaps some of them could change multiple ones at the same time. So this is going to require the player to use some memory, and if we put all the levers next to one another it gives them some interface. So perhaps there's also the button for sending out the minecart over there. However, we need a way to tell them what colour it is that's going over to which place. And it would be so very cool if we could do this in survival Minecraft, put a shulker box inside of the minecart, because then we could colour code it. But I don't think we have to worry about that for now. It'll probably be fairly easy to come up with a solution. Challenge number 3 actually involves shulker boxes, and this is going to be a game probably of memory and kind of logic, figuring out a puzzle, right? The shulker boxes are inside this chest, and they all appear to be the same. However, we've given them some distinction by using colour, so this allows the player to remember certain things. Okay, because as you might suspect, the stone buttons are not the only things inside of these shulker boxes. So to the player right now, they all look the same. There is of course going to be a rule that you can't look inside the shulker box. If I place one down, you'll see that we get a signal strength of, what is that, 3. And then if I put this one down, it's 1. And then we have quite a few more. And are my particles turned off? Normally redstone emits particles. There we go. That's actually really helpful because you can see it comes all the way down to this spot. Anyway, what we will then have are 5 boxes like this that have a redstone lamp, and when you place down one of these shulker boxes, the lamp may or may not turn on. As you see here, the first 2 don't turn on, and then red does turn it on. However, so will lime and so will yellow, and there will be a certain configuration in which you could get 5 of these things to light up. So that will require the player to do some trial and error and assign values mentally to each of the shulker boxes and how much signal strength they emit, because around the back here it's super simple to set up. We've just got some minecarts in here. So inside these shulker boxes are minecarts as well as buttons, and the first 5 are there simply to just shield the player from seeing it in the inventory. So there we go, we now have 3 relatively simple games I can set up on the Hermitcraft server, and if you have any ideas of your own for simple and physical challenges we can turn into little games, let me know with a comment down below, because this will be the first round of this game contest, but we'll probably do more in the future. And I also want to comment on the fact that I'll be building one of each of these. I think it's going to work best if the contestants just play separate from one another, so they can not be distracted by another player in the area talking out loud, that kind of thing, and be alone with their thoughts. So when it comes to the actual show, basically the players will get to play one at a time, and they will probably be timed. Yes, all 3 of these are going to be time challenges. I think earlier in this episode I said we wouldn't have the time to build in here, but it turns out that we do, and that I'm doing the building. And this is our little game right here. I've got some thoughts and opinions on how I would choose to play this, but I'm going to not say anything, and we'll see what our players do when the time comes. So this right here, this armor stand, we can actually manipulate it with a book, so I figured let's get rid of the base plate, and you know, I could even have it so that you couldn't see the armor stand as well, or I could make it a small stand, which I thought would look really cool, and it will still interact with water in the same way. So I think that's pretty good. We could also lock this thing so you can't put items onto it, and I think a bucket of water would still move it around. So yes, that is the game, and it's basically ready to play. However, I've gone and added this, hanging from above, a lighting fixture. I like it all the way up to those end rods. I think what we need to do is put in some redstone lamps up there and power them. That'll probably look a lot better. Anyway, as you can see, there are some blocks opposite this, and this is where we could build some seats for the audience to sit. And so I've designed this with the idea of having games on one side of the area and then places for the audience to sit and the cameras to go on the opposite. So that means we should be able to squeeze in a second game alongside this one. Alright, so the basics have been figured out. We have a layout here which may change, but I figured out the redstone for this over here. We're going to have 5 minecarts that need to go to the correct spot. And also somewhere here it should actually have the colour, which would be red. So let's quickly just grab a red block and then grab that, and I'll put it up top. And so they're going to be tiled one across to the next like that. Behind it, the redstone's super simple. We're just going for 2 signal strength to light up the lamp. As you can see, we've got a filter system here, so only red wool would go in. We wouldn't put stone in the minecarts, and when one more item goes in, that is when it turns on. So that's the way that that would work. If the player did, however, send the wrong minecart to the wrong place, it would just be stuck here doing nothing. So it would be like a double whammy to get something wrong. Anyway, over here will be the interface for flipping these switches and changing the rails that are in front of you. So what is going to happen now is like a little game of its own for me. I've got to hook up all of these inputs to different groupings of rails. Most of them will be single, sometimes there'll be a double, but the real problem is down below. I've had to power all the powered rails in between, and that means that I can't put redstone directly below where these levers are. There's also another problem as well, is that we need to invert the signal. Actually, no we wouldn't, but we did over here, because it's sort of already in one state, right? And all we have to do is change it. But over here we need that state to be unpowered. So that works for that bit, and this is where of course we're going to dispense the minecarts. After a while messing around with the redstone down below, I realised, just a bit of redstone here, it doesn't matter really that it's visible. So we'll stack the minecarts up in there, and then the player can press that button to deploy them. Now I have gone around and given this a test and just made sure that there are some configurations to get to every single one of these, which there are, and there's also probably many combinations in which you can get to all the different destinations. Down the bottom here you'll see I've made some attempts to bring some of the redstone the long way around, so some things on this side affect things on the opposite. There are some that branch out to 2 different points, and there's also some points that have 2 different inputs as well. So it might not be clear what it's always affecting if you've left another one on elsewhere, but that's for the player to figure out, and as I just described, it is all possible. Oh, and I was going to have trapdoors underneath here. I thought that would look cool, but the problem is the redstone's going to be activating it, so it'll look a little bit funky, and we'll just come in here and do this. And although it's not quite as 3D as the one next to it, because of all the redstone and stuff, I don't really think it's a big deal. You'll probably also notice that just at the front here, there's also some clay coming out a little bit further. So it's not quite in line with the other stage. But the thing I realised after building all of this is when you're standing at this level, it can be a little tricky to look at the tracks. But when you're standing up here, it's a lot clearer. Alright, all tidied up and ready to go. Lighting fixture up the top is in place, but slight problem. Minecarts don't drop on top of each other like they used to, so now I've got a problem here that needs solving. I think I can do it with some redstone that'll probably end up having a bunch of wiring coming around the back here, but I am pressed for time, so I'm going to leave it at that right there. If it's not obvious what I'm talking about, there are multiple minecart chests here, and what they used to do is sort of float on top of each other, so you would send one off and the next one would fall down. By the way, I've also decided that I'm going to put our third game over in this space, probably because we can squeeze it going from side to side there, and it leaves us with plenty of space here to create a stage and have an area for the host of the show to present it and all of that cool stuff. So I think we're not going to need the other studio at all, and ZF is online right now and he's expressed some interest in actually using this studio to create a game show as well. So potentially another one will be appearing inside of here, and I should probably move my beacon to somewhere else. But anyway, we have another project we've been working on in this episode, adding the banners to the portals in the nether. I've just been going around taking account of what needs doing, making a list, and also considering that we could add portals to places like Python's area. And our area, Tower Bay, that's the name of it, is right next to his, and I have a banner design for this, and I want to show you these designs as well. This one is pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, before we actually start crafting it, you'll notice I've removed the kelp blocks from either side. I didn't really feel like that worked at all, and we're not going in the other direction, we're going in the banner direction now. So anyway, we have our base banner, then we're going to add 3 of these ink sacs like so, so we get a actual tower in the middle of this. Then we're going to add something that kind of throws in some detail that will make more sense towards the end. Then we're going to put in a base going across the bottom, that's essentially the land, but when we put our fade in to this, it really transforms it, and now it looks like a tower coming out of the ocean. That's perfect. That really looks like you're just looking over at the tower next to the kelp farm. One slight problem though, I don't actually have a lot of wool for all the different types of base that we're going to need, so I guess crafting it all right here makes sense. So I have a question for you. Do the zoomed in bits work? Does that work for you when I do that? I kind of figured it's hard to see what's going on unless you're watching on a really big screen. So by zooming in you can copy what I've been doing. But anyway, this one right here is my absolute favourite. It's the first one that we just crafted. And over here where this little bit of land is where Scar's volcano pirate area is, the pirate islands. And yes, look at that. That's absolutely fantastic. You would just walk over here and know that it would take you to Scar's volcano. These two portals here are now unmistakably impulses, because that's the impulse logo, right? Then we have the Christmas area, which actually has two separate portals. The first one, I've gone for a candy cane right here. Feels very Christmassy and looks amazing on the banner. And then this one is a Christmas tree. Very difficult to do, but that's about the best I could come up with. And this portal actually takes you underneath the giant Christmas tree of the area. So I have brought about another shopping district portal. As you will see, there are 5 in total, and you might remember that I spent a long time figuring out how to perfectly space these at an equal distance apart from one another, coming right through the heart of the shopping area. And of course, it's expanding in that direction. So the nether portal you just saw would synchronize to this location. We could obviously nudge it around a little bit. Might be a perfect opportunity to have a nether portal come under these beautiful cherry blossom trees and into the newer shopping area. Of course, we could even add another portal somewhere over in this direction as well, and then they'll all be perfectly aligned going through the heart of the shopping district. But I'm getting carried away here. The objective was to make those banners this episode, and we have achieved that. We've also created mini games as well, and I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a very productive episode, so if you enjoyed it, then leave a like. As always, thank you for doing that. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you soon in another episode of Hermitcraft. Bye bye.